All right, so welcome, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, people of all ages. Welcome to the First Amendment podcast, brought to you by the people for the people. I am your host, Ace, and today we have a very special topic. It is affecting all of us, and my special guest, Yadi, welcome.
Hi, thank you.
She will enlighten us to what we sometimes do not see, and sometimes we are enslaved by. And that is what's the topic yet?
The topic is culture appropriation and how it is one of many distractions from the true issues of society.
Nice. One of the things that blinds us from what is real, which is love one another no matter who you are. Some
Definitely.
may be darker than others may be lighter than some, but that doesn't make us any different inside. We are all pink inside. It has been
Yes.
proven. So,
hmm
um, so is it let me ask you this. Is it does it kind of sort of have to do, does it flow the same direction as stereotypes? Is that what it kind of sort of may be, or is it something bigger?
I feel like it's a little bigger than that, though I do understand what you mean by stereotypes. Like, people feel that when you wear something of a culture that is outside your own, it is um it's taken away from that culture, like it's almost claimed as your own, when I don't feel it. So a lot of people, like, I want to speak from a personal standpoint here. I am We go down to Mexico for vacation, and a lot of things on the street, very like artisanal clothing. Right now what's really in is like a sun hat that's decorated, painted by hand, depending on the person, on the vendor. Basically, an artist creates this piece, and a lot of people are starting to feel like, um Americans, people, tourists that go down there, they bring them back and they wear them and almost claim the artwork for their own, which I don't feel it's so. I feel it's more like a support, more like an admiration for the culture.
Right, like they're showing off other people's cultures, right?
Yes.
Kind of like when I don't know, maybe this is a bad example, but maybe when Americans or even African Americans love making tacos, right?
Oh, yes.
Not, and I don't want to say that tacos should be limited to only one race, whatever race that. Um, but I get what you're saying. Like people see it the wrong way, right? People instead of um, seeing the people that wears whatever they created or whatever is part of their culture, they take it as if they just took a big piece. Is that what you're?
Yeah. Definitely. Like, who doesn't love a taco? When people, especially people from outside of California or outside of I hear a lot of people from Europe that come over to California, and they try a taco for the first time and they're just amazed. It's
Right.
delicious. Who doesn't love a taco? And there's just because, let's say, you make it at home and you tell your friends, look what I just made. I figured I I found this during my travels, and I decided to learn how to make it. That doesn't mean that you're claiming it. It means you learn something. You have expanded your eyes, your mind, and you brought something new with you. Something that made you a better person, um something to add to you as a human, not
Right.
as not necessarily as a culture.
So would you say that I guess I'm digging a little bit deeper into this. Let's say, for example, I mean, it's a kind of a stereotype that when you talk about tacos and you kind of connect the dots to where it came from or what type of culture, who it represents, it's usually Mexicans, right?
Yes.
Um, for whatever reason, I mean, I've known, white folk, and even I've had a few friendships, that were a few friends that were African American that, they made the hell out of them tacos. So um, I personally would agree with you that it is a stereotype. But what would you say, um, like, let's say something like, if it is connected and it's a stereotype, but if it is connected to Hispanics, and I mean, obviously, a lot of Hispanics take pride in, that connection. What would you say if something like Taco Bell or Jack in the Box came and just, made their own version of tacos and pretty much just obliterated that idea of what a taco should be? What would you say about, when it comes to something like that?
Well, like I know an issue from the past with Taco Bell more specifically. Um, for a Mexican, I don't think what Taco Bell sells is considered a Mexican taco. You know what I mean?
Right,
It's a very it's their own version of a taco.
right.
But
Well, to
they're still
go
a
ahead.
big
I'm sorry.
company, right?
Yeah, well, I mean, to most, I think is, for example, they don't have the Chihuahua anymore, the Taco Bell Chihuahua. They
Mhm.
had them back in the day, but I honestly believe, and it's just me being fair or trying to be fair, but I honestly believe that I don't think there was a racist thing. I think it was more to capture a certain clientele,
Yeah,
which
like
is
a I would say like a vibe, right?
yeah, well, I mean, in business, you try to you advertise for the people that you think are that item or that service is going to sell to. And I believe that
Mhm.
I think, I don't think it was anything racist. I mean, I don't know, but I
I
think, the Chihuahua dog and the taco kind of went hand in hand.
Yeah,
Um,
I heavily doubt that they put the Chihuahua there to be racist. But to
right,
be honest, some stereotypes kind of, they may be stereotypes, but a Chihuahua technically is a South American dog. Um,
oh, okay,
Aztecs had Chihuahuas. They were just not as evolved as they are. Like today, the Chihuahua from back then looks different, but they came from the same genealogical line. Um, it's just like you said, it's targeted towards a certain audience. So if we're gonna have tacos, which are a South American staple, um, more specifically Hispanic, we should probably have a mascot, and this mascot should be Hispanic as well.
right, a Chihuahua, more or less.
Yes, in this case, yes.
So what would you say, let's say for example, do you think it's fair to say, I'm going to give you an example of I don't know if you watch football, but there's a football league called the NFL, and they used to have a Washington team called the Washington Redskins, and they had an Indian, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, and for some reason, with this administration, um, they pretty much took the Redskin out because they called it a Redskin and not an Indian.
Right.
Um, would you say that has anything racist in it, or would you say it's more of uh a way that Native Americans can have pride in their own people, when they watch their team, I mean, because with me personally, if there was a team, called the I don't know, the Aces or the Mexicans or I mean, our family's, partially Irish as well, the Irishmen. I mean, I'd probably go for that team even if they suck, right?
Yeah.
And I even went as far as talking to some of my Native American colleagues, and they were pretty upset that they did that. So I guess my question to you is, do you think it was fair to do that, or do you think there's a power that has Native Americans and created it an issue when there was really no issue there, so they took it out. What do you think it actually stemmed from?
I feel like going in a little bit deeper on this. I feel like Native American with the removal of this, because if you think about it, when the Europeans came over to the Americas, in Native Americans did not know what Europeans were. They didn't know Europe existed. So they historically they called Europeans the pale skins, or they called with a number of other names as well, but it was just a characteristic, something they saw that they could use to describe this new people. It was not negative. That too, that also it that matters. As long as it's not negative, I don't feel like it would have been a problem. And like you said, you've talked to people, Native Americans, that were upset because they took away this one thing that connected them to this amazing, this talented team of people that were
Well, I wouldn't go
representing
that
Native
far.
American.
I wouldn't go as far as talented. I mean, they're okay, but
I mean, I don't watch football like that, but there are people that represent talent in the
right,
entertainment industry. So,
right.
um, I feel like that would hurt me too. Um, like in football, not football, soccer. Um, there's a team called in English it translates to the Billy Goats, but it's Las Chivas, right?
Right.
They're not necessarily calling anyone in that team or anyone from that region Billy Goats. It's a nickname. It's something that people represent with pride because it represents their people in a non-negative way. And to go a little bit deeper on the whole Redskins thing, I feel like Native Americans have some a lot more powerful issues than a name on a football team.
Right.
Like there's things like in the pipeline that they were protesting. Many Native American women and children were going missing. And I feel like this is all just a distraction from the real issues.
So
Why do people care about these?
do you think this is more of an do you think it's more of an attack, like a disguised attack to take from Native Americans and like people, other situations like that with other races? Or do you think people are actually concerned about something that really has no reason to be addressed? What do you think? Because I ask because I know with even with a lot of African Americans, there's certain people that say that this is slavery all over again. But in reality, we see everyone making as much money as they put their mind to. Anyone can be a basketball player, anyone can be a football player, anyone can be a manager, a business owner, and it all depends on how you work, right? And your skill set. So, do you think this is more or less to an attack towards certain races, or do you think it's more or less because there's actual concern? What do you think it may be?
I feel like people are misdirecting their concern more so. Like they're they're focusing on this because they think it is an important issue, when in reality I feel like their attention could be put somewhere else, like somewhere um like I wanted to say um during the election there was this big thing going around about pedophilia, uh and they were trying to basically legalize pedophilia and call it something like make it a gender and add it to the LGBTQ community, kind of like making it like its own sexuality.
Mm,
And that wasn't heard of very very much because the election was going on and people were distracted. So I feel like taking away the whole the American from the what was the Redskins football team was just a misdirection. People don't know where else to point their attention to because they're being directed into that issue. Like they want, like, someone up there is making people care about these things because they're limiting the amount of information that goes out to the people.
Right. Do you think they do that on purpose, or do you think it's an accidental, or what is it? What is that? Too much information. I don't know I forgot what the acronyms were, but do you think it's an accidental thing, or something that they leave out because they don't think it's important, or do you think it's important and they do this on purpose to redirect individuals of certain groups?
I feel like it's on purpose. It's on purpose when because knowledge is power. So
Right.
when the people have this knowledge, when they have power, the people start to realize that they can take away power from people that are misusing it. Like
Right.
just like how in our constitution we can impeach our president, or we can there's checks and balances when laws get passed, so they have to go through the Senate, through the president, and through Congress. And at any time these laws can be checked, or at least these bills, they can be checked. But when you limit the information that gets out to the people, you can you can pass laws, you can sneakily add things to bills, you can um just misdirect the attention, make them focus on something a little bit more trivial so that you can take care of the problem on this side. You understand what I mean?
Yeah, yeah. I've noticed a lot of misdirecting to manipulate folks like
Mm-hmm.
you and I. I will agree with you on that. We are pretty much all sheep, and it all depends on whether we go to the right or the left. And I am seeing a lot of people going towards the left, and I only use that analogy because I want to pretty much what I see it as is, if there was an elite group, if there was, I don't know, if there was God, if there was Satan, or if there was an elite group, or an elite group of individuals who are constantly battling for us. I think the ones on the right, and this is nothing political, but the way I see it is, the ones on the right um, call us the righteous sheep, the ones that are doing what's righteous, and the ones that are protecting one another and not trying to, hurt one another. And the left are basically what, their elite see as whatever's left, right? We'll take in
Mm-hmm.
whatever we can. So that's the way I see it. The left and the right, it's whatever direction you want to go to. That's personally what I believe in. It's not a fact, but that's what I believe in. And with that being said, I mean, do you believe that um, out of all these, misguiding of all the lambs in the planet, do you believe that there is a certain power that can guide us back to, to wake up? And if you do, what do you think is the most important thing to get out of, because there's a lot of things going on right now in this world. So there's a pandemic, there's racial issues with BLM against white supremacy, or whatever they want to call it, Confederates. There's the borders where they don't let people come in, but yet they fly people out to different states in secret. There's obviously people are still trying to vote for unibathrooms, right? So you can pretty much do whatever you want to little girls that go in there, which I don't agree with. Um, and that's going to cause a lot of problems. And you are right, that idea did come from the LGBT community. So all these little groups, what do you think, if anything, we should probably address first out of all these? What is the most important thing if we want to walk towards change?
I feel like if we want to change, we first have to take the big step of admitting to ourselves that our opinion is our opinion, that everyone is free to their opinion. Now, that does not mean going out and hurting others. Like when, like for example, in our Constitution, one of our principal rights is the right to freedom, liberty, and property. Now, what does that mean? It means um, that you have a right to your that comes in with the amendments. You have a freedom of speech, your freedom of choice, um, and also I feel like people kind of get that confused with I get to decide how I live my life, even if I'm hurting people. That's not right. You cannot just go around and expressing yourself by hurting people. Once you hurt people, I feel like it is okay for your rights to be limited. Just like how there's people in jail, right? They have a right to freedom, but they also violated another person's right to freedom. You understand what I mean?
Right.
So it's a process. Like we all have to open our eyes and accept that everyone has an opinion, everyone has a choice. And just because everyone has a choice, everyone has an opinion, they're not necessarily wrong. It's
So
wrong when you hurt people.
you're saying that that's why we humans can't have nice things, because whenever we're given nice things, we basically just rape the heck out of them and violate the heck out of our nice things, right? Like
Yes.
our freedom of speech. A lot of people have created. As a matter of fact, nowadays, now that you mentioned that, that's one thing that I'm not truly biased when it comes to the show, or to anybody when it comes to the show. Everyone's welcome. However, I will tell you this: the cancel culture is definitely not, and I will tell you
Mhm.
why. And this is on that topic, because the cancel culture is basically like that little kid that you see at the store, let's say Walmart, Food for Less, that's dragging himself on the floor because he wants to eat chocolate, and his mom tells him it's not good for you, and he's just dragging himself on the floor until he actually gets the chocolate, because the mom is uh usually submits to the little kid, because obviously that's her son, and she thinks she's doing the kid a favor by doing what the kid wants. And I think that's where we are in society right now with the cancel culture. We keep feeding them, and they keep wanting more. uh,
Mhm.
on Spotify, I've seen things, I don't know if you heard, with the whole Joe Rogan and other which are mainly conservative talk shows. But I mean, that's pretty much, it doesn't matter when it comes to what I'm trying to say. What I'm trying to say is the cancel culture. It's just something that I don't really see eye to eye with. Um,
Mhm.
so with that being said, I mean, with this whole, the way I see, I mean, I don't know if you, let me know if you agree or disagree with this, but the way I see the cancel culture is basically, when I think of the cancel culture, I think of double standards. That's the main thing I always think of, double standards. And I talked to other people about this, and we agreed, when it comes to double standards, is basically, I'm not fighting. I tell people I'm fighting for freedom and social justice and ideas, free ideas. But in reality, the cancel culture is basically just fighting for their ideas, not yours, their own. So
Mhm.
when it comes to, let's say, the cancel culture, right, and the stereotypes and this and that, um, when it comes to race, when it comes to um, all these other all these other disasters that are going on in life. Do you think the cancel culture is a big part of using stereotypes and all these what we mentioned earlier about having canceling stuff because they say that Hispanics are going to be offended, so we got to take the dog out of Taco Bell, or Native Americans are going to be offended, so we need to take the Redskins out of there. Well, do you think they're a big part of it, or do you think it's something more, something different, basically?
I think it's something It's something hard for me to understand personally because I don't I don't impose my opinion on anyone like this. I feel like everyone has a say in it. But like you said about the Taco Bell dog, did anyone ask the Mexicans if they were going to be offended by the
I don't
Taco
think
Bell
so.
dog?
I don't
I
think
don't
so.
think so.
Yes, that's what I'm trying to ask you. Like, do you think do you think it's mainly the cancel culture who's just going around canceling? I don't know if you heard they've brought down statues of George Washington because he was the biggest racist, and Benjamin Franklin. As a matter of fact, the one thing that kind of ticked me off was when they canceled Dr. Seuss because he was racist. I don't know if they know
Oh,
who
yeah.
Dr. Seuss is, but Seuss was probably one of the least racist people that wrote books, only because he didn't use people mainly. Yeah, he used a few white kids and maybe a few Eskimo kids, but other than that, he used creatures that he made in his mind. So, like with this whole movement, when it comes to stereotypes, because obviously they canceled the cancel culture canceled Dr. Seuss because they thought, since the little Eskimo kids were in the book, it was racist. And I want to figure out, and I'm sure a lot of people out there want to figure out what does that have to do with Eskimos or people from that culture? Or what does that have to do with them being offended by Eskimos being in books, right? What does that have to do
Hmm.
with
I feel like this is a great topic right now. Dr. Seuss, I don't remember reading his books and thinking he was racist. In fact, I always thought the opposite. He was always very like, be friends with one another, no matter the differences. And everyone in his book was different. Everyone was different color, sometimes a different pattern, sometimes a completely different creature. And it astonishes me how far cancel culture can go. There's just, I don't feel like they're really attacking the right things. You're attacking, um first of all, he was an amazing author. He was a great starting book for for children because they saw the love and the kindness of these characters through the pages. They saw how the community was through every word of that book. So this cancel culture is just not, it's really not looking at the real issues. Cancel culture should be going after things like child trafficking or human trafficking in general. It should go towards finding cures for cancers, um for sicknesses. Like, instead of running your mouth on something you know very little of, or of your own opinion, why don't you contribute to society? Why don't you try, I don't know, donate money, go for those marathons that donate money to, like for example, the Walk of Dimes, where they donate money for every step or for every mile you walk. I think it's 10 cents for premature children with that are fighting for their lives. I don't know. Like, this is just an example.
that? Right.
It's it hurts me to feel that I can't go out into the world and speak my opinion because someone else is going to try and tear me down for my opinion, especially when I'm not hurting anyone for my opinion.
Right, right. And
I'm not.
that's why we're here today because in this talk show we're gonna actually create um the opposite of what's going on right now. You know,
Mhm.
I too am tired of seeing people cancel each other out. And I mean, personally, I do think that it's because everything that's going on, including the cancel culture, that we can't go outside and sit down and talk. A lot of higher ups, like the Biden administration, even high people, they say that it's all due to COVID and climate change. I would not agree with that. I mean, I could be wrong, but I do believe that the separation is too large. Um, and that is why we're here today, to talk about the real issues that are going on and how we really feel. Because I mean, this has to do a lot with the topic. People out there telling the world how people like you and I feel when we sit there and we're like, we really don't feel that way. It's not even, that's like way off. I don't feel like I need to be stuck at home because I fear, COVID's going to kill me. I actually want to go to bars without a mask and, do what I used to do before, all this controversial stuff. Um,
Mm-hmm.
so again, thank you. I mean, for coming. This is actually a big step for us to unite as people, not as lambs, lambs that are pushed to the left. So let me ask you this. When it comes to the division, or let's just keep with Dr. Seuss. So with Dr. Seuss, we all know, growing up that he wasn't racist. I mean, that wasn't even in our minds, right? But we're reading the books, Green Eggs and Ham. Like, there's really nothing racist about that book.
Mm-hmm.
Um, one fish, two fish, red fish, blue fish. I think that one was one of my favorites. And so I'm trying to get to the bottom of this, and I think a lot of people are as well. We're very confused about it. Why do you think they targeted, out of all everyone they could target, they targeted Dr. Seuss? Why do you think, like, in your opinion, why do you think that happened?
Well, I'm gonna speak very honestly here. Um, Millennials have very strong opinions. Not necessarily wrong, not necessarily right, but they're very passionate. I'm a millennial myself, and I know that I feel very passionate about my opinion, but there's other people that take it, a step further, I'm gonna say. And a lot of millennials became parents recently in the last couple of years. And I remember a couple years ago, they started targeting children's books because they would, read to their kids, and they would feel like something was wrong with the book, whether they felt it was racist or whether if they felt like it was misinforming, stereotypical, whatever it was. So I feel like that's where things really started, because it's been a couple years where I've heard that people were canceling books, which I felt were like, why would you cancel that book? That was a great book. And up until now with Dr. Seuss, um it wasn't really like a big issue. With Dr. Seuss being such a prevalent author, such an amazing author, such um he was a big name in the child development community. So when they targeted Dr. Seuss, that's when that issue came out. And I feel like it's been a while coming. Like, people, like I said, millennials have very strong emotions, very strong opinions. And it's just somewhere where they were able to focus immediately that passion. You understand what I
Right.
mean? So they're
Yeah,
like,
it's kind
"Oh,
of
we
like
want to
them.
change the world one step at a time. So this is going to be our first step."
Right. Canceling Dr. Seuss. Um, but again, like what you were saying before this, isn't there other areas in their community they can help out instead of canceling Dr. Seuss, or is Dr. Seuss like a step to bettering their community? What is their, what do you think their plan is?
I I have I want to say I know, but I don't. I feel like they really could put that energy towards bettering their community by, if they feel there's some sort of injustice, maybe creating programs where they can provide, like, for example, children who are in the system. Um, these kind of kids, they go around from house to house with their belongings in a trash bag. So why not go around asking people for their old dusty suitcases and donating them to your nearest adoption center? It's something you could proactively do for your community. But instead they felt like they could immediately do something um especially like with these books, because it affected their kids, not
Right.
because it affected everyone else.
So a
You know
lot
what
of
I
folks,
mean?
yeah, I know exactly what you mean. A lot of folks do say that I know. I mean, I'm not going to name anyone because we don't name names here, but a lot of people that I know, they see these people and the people that canceled Dr. Seuss. Those are the same people that are obviously the cancel culture, right?
Mm-hmm.
They see these folks as someone who rather cry to or not cry, but not only cry, but some do protest in a very legit way, peaceful protest, right? There's a lot of protesting. There's a lot of pointing fingers towards things that really don't matter too much and leave their community, still in array. Would you say
Mm-hmm.
that? Would you say that canceling, books would be a good way to fix the community that live in? And if so, which books?
I don't I don't feel books are meant to be canceled. Books are knowledge, and knowledge is power. Like I said before, books, if you don't like the book, if you don't feel like you um just to name an example, like different religions don't want their children to be exposed to certain topics, right? So if you feel like this book exposes your child to a topic that you don't feel is right or that you don't necessarily like, why expose your child to this book? But why also take it away from everyone else by canceling this book? Why
Right,
not just remove it from your home? Especially when it's not hurting anyone. And in reality, it's not. It's it's your opinion. You feel like this book is incorrect, but going back to Dr. Seuss, just as an example, um, it was a very loved book, right? And because of one book, the rest of his books are also being canceled just because he was labeled as racist.
right,
So why take away that from your community instead of doing something a little bit more proactive? Like just remove that book from your child's library if you don't like it. Or
right.
maybe raise awareness about that specific book, and just I feel like it could have been approached differently. People are just very radical in the way they present their issues, and they make it very, very personal
Very
instead of
messy.
for the better of the community.
Right, right. So would you say that there's or what you're saying is there's other proactive ways to tell people why you don't agree with it, right? Instead of
Yes.
trying to cancel them.
Mm-hmm.
That's one thing that I am against, and that's what the podcast is um is mainly about. There is no canceling here, and that's why I was telling you earlier that I love everyone, but one thing I do not agree with, and I may agree in the future. I don't know the future, but right now I don't agree with the whole canceling of things you don't like.
Mm-hmm.
With that being said, there's a lot of folks that say that um, they need to just walk away from these issues. Kind of like if you go to a restaurant and there's people that, if there's people that don't like it, some people will never go back to that restaurant, but there's other people that want to see the manager and they want a refund and, this and that. And, um, they give bad ratings in every single platform because they themselves didn't like the food, right?
Mm-hmm.
Do you think this is going to have a big impact in the future with people, I guess, in a word in one word, I guess, feeling entitled, feeling like they can change the world to their view, like a better world in their view? Do you think this is going to be a big impact, or do you think this is going to die down over time?
I was just thinking of that word exactly, being entitled. And definitely these newer generations, millennials, Gen Zs, I forgot what the last generation was called, the more recent one. We grew up with a much different lifestyle than before. So we have everything at our fingertips now. So a lot of people grew up feeling entitled, feeling entitled to constantly being happy, to being served, to just basically to be themselves in a much, like, how do you say it? In like a spotlight. Do you understand what I mean? I'm not saying that it's not okay to be yourself. I feel like being yourself is awesome and you should always be yourself. But they're more like feeling above other people,
Right.
especially when it comes to like the customer service industry. A lot of the people who are more entitled are bound to cause problems when they didn't feel something was right. Like you said, when they don't like the food, it just means it's not your type of restaurant, so you're welcome to not come back. If you want to leave a review, you can let them know how you felt. But of course the service has nothing to do with the food. Now, every restaurant is catered to a different type of person. You you can go to a neighborhood with the same restaurant with the same food, but this neighborhood has a certain demographic, and is completely different from the other one, so the food might taste a little differently because it's targeted towards that neighborhood. Do you understand what I mean? Hello?
So, so do you believe that do you believe that this whole, going back and forth with racism over stereotypes and um, attaching, I don't know, food to certain cultures or like for example, Redskins to Indians or um, do you think this is more or less an attack for society as a whole? And I know, there's different cases, but for example, if you're talking about BLM, there's a lot of people that don't agree that they're about the black community, but it's more of an attack towards the white community. And if you're talking about, LGBTQ, now, I mean, I'm like I said, I'm not biased towards anything. This is pretty much what is taught or what is believed either or. Some people believe that LGBTQ was pretty much a platform to keep you to bring you away from God less or more and more from God, and for people to believe less and less in God and God's ideals. And there's obviously other folks that believe that it's more of a freedom march for people that are, different. Um, and things like that, like with feminism, I'm all about, standing up for the female against all enemies. But some folks believe that today's feminism is all about um, women being independent and not caring about men, which that kind of it has obvious results. We came a long way since the 50s, since the 40s, right? Where
Mm-hmm.
families were the main goal for men and women, right? Having a family, having your like the saying goes, buying a little picket house with a picket fence and a golden retriever in the back. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
so do you think these groups would provide more assistance or more or would be more against their communities when it comes to millennials and Zoomers? Obviously, Gen X and Boomers, those generations have lived through a lot. So we, kind of see the difference. But how bad do you think, or how good do you think these new generations, especially the Zoomers, will be affected by these new groups? What do you think about these the progression that we've had as humans when it comes to them?
Well, a couple things about feminism is I feel like feminism means equality. And nowadays, I don't, as a woman, I don't feel like feminist groups are looking for equality. It's There's a lot more radical ideas coming, surfacing out, and it is, I feel like it is, um, guiding a lot of the younger generations away from these very basic human instincts, like love, like wanting a family, uh like settling down. And I don't mean settling down like woman in the kitchen and man at work and woman takes care of the kids. I mean settling down where the household is equal. Woman or mom and dad, or woman and man work, um they both take care of the kids. There's a shared responsibility. That's what
Right.
the women from the 50s wanted. They wanted a right to vote, or not the 50s, in the 20s, during the women's suffrage. They wanted these they wanted the right to vote. They wanted to not be male property. They wanted to be their husband's wife. Like they don't want to live in their shadow, because a woman is very capable. I'm not I'm not going to say otherwise. I feel like I'm very capable.
Right,
But
right,
I also feel like I have a right to love. I have a right to live happy.
right,
This is, like you said, a family, settling down and um just enjoying that, because nothing else really matters when you have love,
right.
when you have that support from your family.
So would you say as a whole, because I know there's different, isolated incidents, everyone's different.
Mhm.
Obviously, when you talk about feminism, people take that in different ways as well. Um, do you think as a whole, do you think we're progressing with the whole feminist movement and females empowering themselves? Do you think we're going towards the right direction? Or do you think that, the structure that was there um, changed into what feminism is today? And do you believe it's empowerment or do you think it's overpowerment? Because there's a difference between pretty much, both of them. Do you think
Mhm.
it went from something innocent to something that it's just not logical, or do you think the progression is actually going in a pretty good way?
I think it went from empowering the woman to the demasculation of men. I feel like feminist groups now are very pro choice. If that's I don't take a side on pro choice, pro life, because everyone has lived through something different. Um I'm not going to say that I generally agree with pro pro choice, but I do feel like every woman has a choice. So
Right,
I don't, but they don't, how do you say it, they're not encouraging a woman to be strong. They're encouraging a woman to be, I guess the only way I can put it is to be man and woman. Do you get what I mean?
like
This
hyenas,
is,
right? They're both.
yes. So like we don't need men. Like men
Right,
are, like a lot of them say like men are trash, and
right,
um not all feminists think this way, but a lot of the feminists that protest, that are like on platforms and that really vocalize feminism, often it, how do you say it, um they express pro-choice and um that they are better off without men, things that are very backwards when humans are not meant to be that way. Humans, men and women, are made for each other. We
Right,
are
we're
for each
compatible.
other. Yes, very compatible. We're like two pieces of a puzzle that connect.
So that
um
there, you pretty much just started like 100 conversations. So so let me ask you this before we keep going like way off topic. You just started a conversation that has to do with LGBTQ and feminism and all this cool stuff that I really really want to talk about. But for the purpose of time, let me ask you this about our topic when it comes to stereotypes. When it comes to stereotypes, um, do you believe that stereotypes, um, so my question is the W's, maybe not all W's, because we know what it is. There's stereotypes, right? Which
Mhm.
are we connect to certain races, to men, to women, like you were talking about back in the 50s, we expected women to be in the kitchen and make food and this and that. And today we have women pretty much, going to work and taking care of the kid because for whatever reason, there's different reasons. Um, do you believe with stereotypes, do you believe it came from a certain power to be or a certain um hierarchy? Or do you think it was obviously what I'm trying to ask is, do you think we were motivated or inspired to be where we're at today because of our different, the stereotypes that we had before? And now, obviously, a lot of people frown upon them. Or do you believe that slowly people were really did feel oppressed and really did feel depressed and really did feel like, um, like for example, women, we deserve, if I was a female today, we deserve a lot more than what we're getting. Do you think that's what happened, or do you think it was like a higher motivation or inspiration that inspired people to, you know, for a lot of black folk to hate cops, or for a lot of feminists to hate men, or for a lot of and vice versa? Obviously, there is white supremacists and there is men that really don't like women
Mhm.
and belittle them. So do you think it came from a hierarchy, or do you think it was just us being us?
I feel like the way that humans progressed over time, it was a little bit of all that. It was a little bit of motivation and a little bit of progression. So, our progression, which is going from a very patriarchal society, um, back then, marriage people didn't really get divorced. I don't know if you read up on that, but a lot it was really frowned upon for families to break up because the man or the mom and the dad didn't like each other, or because they fought too much. Now I can only imagine how the kids grew up. Like I'm gonna do this at during with the child development point of view. The child growing up saw their mom and dad fighting, and they didn't get divorced. They were just fighting, and every once in a while you would see a perfect family. But a lot of families, there's tension. There's always tension because not not a lot. You don't get to know the person until you end up living with them. I feel that true, at least. And when they have children, they try to expand their family. The children sees um a lot of, like, during that time there's a lot of alcoholism going on with the dad and some violence. The mom depressed at home, smoking in the house, drinking as well. The child saw this growing up and didn't understand, but psychologically it affects children to see this type of frustration, to feel the tension in their home. I only imagine how those kids grew up, and this as with this progression, it was motivating for these children, now grown-ups, to feel like, well, if my dad hit my mom, I don't want to go through that. Men are bad, men are evil. Like how you said, people in black neighborhoods, they were um nowadays people are our African American communities have a sort of like hate towards cops. And this may be a stereotype, but that's because cops like in the 50s were very racist. So those kids that grew up with their parents being attacked by cops were taught to hate cops. So now their kids feel like they have a bigger voice now thanks to social media. They feel like they can do something about it, because for generations their communities were being oppressed. So it was a little bit of actual oppression, actual motivation, and some progression, if you're following me.
Yeah, yeah, no, I get you. So let me ask you this: when it comes to um the uh the the generations teaching, generation teaching another generation, and so on and so forth, um and reparation, of course, that's what you were talking about, right? When people, maybe not reparation, but it's a good word for that. So basically repairing your mind, I guess, when it comes to being taught to hate certain individuals because of the past, right? We can
Hmm.
go as far as, enslavement, not only with African Americans, but with the Chinese, the Aztecs enslaved, smaller groups and stuff. We had the Holocaust, of course, one of the biggest ones, if not the biggest one, in modern times. Um, when do you think enough is enough? When do you think we should draw the line and say, do you think people ever ask themselves, why do I hate this person? If today we live, I mean, in my opinion, more or less, we've never been this equal. I mean, I haven't lived that long, but since the time I've been living, I believe equality is on point for the most part. There are isolated incidents, but anyway, like I was asking, I don't want to get too much into it, but do you think we're gonna eventually draw a point when enough is enough, or do you think we still need more? Certain groups and individuals need more reparation, more equity, or the lack of
I
equality.
I feel like the community as a whole, society as a whole, is going to realize that enough is enough when their hate starts to hurt themselves. I I don't think that hate or holding hate in is a good thing for you. It messes with you. When you start focusing on the bad things happen. Like when you start thinking positive and start to really learn to love and accept others, good comes your way. It's the general rule of karma. And like you said, at this moment in history, at this moment in our present time, we are the most equal we've been. But then again, there's still future and there's still a lot of work to be done for true equity, not just equality, equity. So that time may come in the future, but at this point in time, we are the most equal we have been in history.
So with that being said, would you say that these groups that have been created by certain individuals, do you think they're a good way to progress towards that, line where you say enough is enough and I just want to hug it out? Or do you think these small groups are hurting us and we're going backwards because of that?
Definitely backwards because they're promoting hate. They're not promoting they're not promoting true equality. Feminism, the definition of feminism is equality between men and women. And Black Lives Matter, it should be about the black people. It should be about our African American communities being and feeling safe with everyone and not
So
feeling. I'm sorry?
sorry, go ahead. Go ahead.
Um, it's like you said, there's isolated moments that really mess it up for everyone. Not all feminists believe that men are trash or that men are the bane of our existence. Not all white cops are racist, and not all African American people hate cops. They're all isolated, but these isolated incidents really rev up these groups, and these groups use them as a way to promote hate. So I don't
Right.
feel like these groups are helping. If they really wanted to help, they would be putting resources to their communities. They would be reaching out with I don't know, help towards the people that they're targeting. You understand, like feminism, coming to young women and explaining to them their rights, or um I don't know how to say, maybe like like in school when you go through like sex ed,
Yeah.
something like that, like education, basically education for women, like higher education as well. So, and same thing with our black community. um these these um these groups should be putting resources for their communities to get them out of these problematic neighborhoods, or making sure that everyone in their community gets education, because like I said before, and I'm always going to stand by this, knowledge is power, and when the people have knowledge, they have the power to change the world.
Right. And basically change themselves. You can't
Mm-hmm.
save the world unless you save yourself.
Definitely.
I totally stand by that one there. And obviously, if people need help to save themselves, or save themselves, they can always ask for a helping hand. Do not be afraid. Do not hide in your shell when you go through issues, because sometimes the best solution is the helping hand of another person, another creature like yourself, which is me, which is, my guest, which is a lot of helping hands out there. So let me throw you one last curveball before I so sadly and the convo. Um, I guess would be, with all this being said, with growing up in stereotypes, growing up in different cultures, growing up in different assumptions, right? Or different idea, or different situations where you see someone that is basically stealing, or what most people think is stealing the essence of their culture. Um, do you believe um, do you believe that this whole issue with every issue, actually, do you think it stemmed from, because you did mention millennials, that's why I'm asking this, do you think it stemmed from Gen X? Because you also mentioned the parents, right? The parents who kind of sort of let go. We were talking about that earlier. Do
Mm-hmm.
you think Gen X had a lot to do with what millennials are today and what Zoomers are today, or and only millennial, or and only Gen X? I'm sorry, only Gen X. Or do you think Gen X was motivated and inspired by society and mainstream media, mainstream everything, right? Do you think Gen X was inspired by all that, or do you think Gen X kind of sort of just um, let go of parenting pretty much?
I feel like Gen X was definitely a generation of revolution. There was they wanted change. Um they wanted that for their oppressors to stop. They wanted change for their communities, for their people. Um but there was so much going on during that time. I'm not gonna call them bad parents because I don't know that. I don't know if it's true, but the every generation has a set of obstacles that affects their families as well. Their their kids grew up seeing their parents be revolutionaries, Panteras, Martin Luther King, Rosa Parks, people who stood up for what was right. Now I feel like a lot of our generation takes inspiration from those people, but I also don't know how or why they decided that cancel culture or such radical ideals are what's gonna change a society, when in reality compassion for one another is um what's gonna change our society and bring us together as a community.
So would you say, with that being said, would you say that it's the parenting of parents, or the parenting of, or the lack of parenting of parents, and the parenting of pretty much YouTube, social media, the giants, the tech giants? Would you say it's the parents who misguide for the most part because of the way they were misguided by the, last generation? And obviously, if that's the case, most parents really don't know how to parent. And I believe that's probably why they encouraged, Planned Parenthood, right? Because most parents were just not caring back in the day. Or do you believe it's more social media and YouTube and all the, powers to be, I guess you could say?
um Definitely past generations each generation um their parenting is different from the past. I'm speaking from a child development major point of view. um every I've always believed that a parent is a child having a child, and I say that as a mother as well. Sometimes I don't feel like I am adequate because I want to give my daughter her best, but also that's my generation, my time. In previous generations, a child was seen no more than a commodity to work your farm. um, Things have definitely changed in the way that we see our, in the way we raise our children. And we're still getting a hang of it because there is no perfect way to raise a child. um, Past generations have definitely been harsher than others, like in the 50s, where drinking and smoking around your children was completely acceptable. um while nowadays we know that smoking around your child can cause secondhand asthma, respiratory issues, um also psychological issues. So I cannot blame solely parents for past generations. Nowadays it's a lot harder because social media also influences our children, because it's everywhere, it's so accessible, it's at our fingertips. So um it's not just parents anymore. Now it's also what the children are exposed to with the internet. It's hard to manage because it's everywhere, and you also don't know because other children are exposed to different things. And the at school it's a lot harder to limit or to control what kind of exposure affects your child. So I
Right.
can't blame parents anymore. Maybe back then, okay, I could, but not anymore.
Not anymore. You think we're going towards a good route, as far as parenting today,
um
for the most
I
part, obviously.
For the most part, I can't tell you for sure. Maybe there's definitely a lot more psychologists and people doing studies to really try to I guess make the perfect child, if I can put it in those words. Just
Baby
really,
Jesus.
yes, to make recreate baby Jesus is basically what child development studies wants to accomplish.
Well, good
But
luck with that one.
definitely, right?
Yeah.
But it's going to be quite difficult with the new outside influences affecting our children that were not there, or were not present in past generations.
Right, I hear you. So this talk was awesome. I mean, I'd like to definitely have you back. If you would like to come back and talk about other stuff, it would be a pleasure. It would be an honor. Um, but for now, I will cut it short, and we can have another session in the near future. But you're a very smart person. You know, I would be proud if you were. If I was one of your parents, I'm pretty sure they're proud. So, yeah, definitely come back and we can talk about, every issue that we kind of sort of wanted to break into, right? We wanted to break towards the left and the right, talk about different things. Um,
Mhm.
so we'll talk about that in future episodes. If anybody has any comments out there or feedback, any questions, any answers, there's a link in the description of the actual podcast. Scroll to the bottom and you can leave us a message. Or on the actual episode itself, you can leave comments. So I encourage you to join the talk. This talk, I'm pretty sure it enlightened a lot of people. We are in this talk show because we want to tell people the real opinions of real people instead of mainstream trying to cancel everyone. We don't cancel here. So once again, Yadi, thank you. I do appreciate you coming down and filling people's minds and noggins with a lot of information. And hopefully in the future we'll talk about all kinds of different interesting topics.
Of course, thank you for having me, and I hope I open someone's mind to different opinions, and to always remember to show your other humans compassion.
Perfect. That was beautiful. And my 2 cents, people, I want to tell you that I can't stress it enough. I'll probably say it in a lot of episodes. Love. Love is where it's at. It's not hard to love. Sometimes it is, a pretty hard choice to love those who, I mean, could even hate you. But one thing that you have to learn is that people don't make you do what you do. So if somebody hates you, it's still possible to love them because it is your choice. It is your voice. It is your brain. And your mind is only as powerful as you make it. So it's your story, ladies and gentlemen. Write a good one, write a bad one. It's up to you. But you only have one story. So let's make it a good one. With that being said, everyone, thank you for listening. Thank you for joining. Yadi, thank you. God bless and lots of love to you and everyone out there. Um, and I will see you in the next time. All everyone out there, have a good night and please stay safe.